Welcome to Call with Dads. Let's talk.
All right, so how about we do this? Let's actually dive into why we're here. Let's talk, because it's great to be laughing when we go into talking about grief and all this, because what else is funnier than that, huh? But seriously, I mean, one thing, especially at the time of this recording, there's been a lot of stuff happening in the news and all this stuff recently, and there was for anyone that's not live streaming or doesn't realize when this has been recorded, we just dealt with Charlie Kirk being assassinated by a crazy leftist, and it's affecting a lot of people very weirdly. And you know, the one thing that dawned on me, and after I realized it, I heard somebody else mention it, because I thought about what was his name, Dale Earnhardt. When I was a kid, he had a crash, and a lot of people started being upset, but it was only like a few handful of NASCAR fans, right? Then I never understood how people could be upset that somebody they didn't know, they only watched it on TV, died, blah, blah, blah. Then you had somebody pointed out that the closest relatable impact that this assassination had was back during JFK, where when JFK was assassinated, people all over the country mourned him. It was a national-wide depression, emotional depression, not an economy, and all this. Now, with Charlie Kirk, he's not a politician, he wasn't anything like that, and I'll admit, it's even weirdly enough bothered me a little bit dealing with it, going, well, I didn't know the guy, but it's depressing, it's sad to see, and because he didn't advocate fighting, he just wanted discussions, all this. Yeah. But
the kids thing hit me the hardest.
Yeah. But
that was probably like, I was like, man, dude's got 2 young children and they were there.
Yeah. And see, here's what adds to it is not to focus on Charlie Kirk, which is kind of what got me into this mindset of it. But the fact of we all deal with grief one way or another. And I thought about how, like, when my step-grandpa died, I had no emotions. I was younger. I didn't really know how to process. I didn't think about it, all this. And my example was my stepdad, who, in front of me, stoic, very tough, very, like, and then when you saw him around other people, they were laughing and remembering the good times and all this. You didn't really see, other than the girls, really the women and what's have you doing the crying. So the guy's very, I can handle this, blah, blah, blah. When my stepdad died, I had that same mindset. So during his funeral, I was trying to be strong for my mom so that if she was having issues, she didn't see me hurting or what's have you. And all this. People, I guess my mom said that people's even made comments to her that, why wouldn't Eric cry? Or did Eric really feel bad or what's have you? Because I kept it in. Now, I still to this day, if you see me out in public, unless I am kicked in the nuts like 30 times maybe, I probably won't cry. I can take a beating like there's no tomorrow, and I might sit there and go like, son of a, all right, let's go. But that's how I grew up. When my stepdad died, when I had to cry, I would drive out into the middle of nowhere in the country, because I grew up in farmlands and such. I would pull over to the side of the road and just let it go. You know, no one around, no one to see me, this and that. We all deal with grief in our own ways. My point basically being that how I was raised was be tough, be strong, be a man, which it's affected me my whole life. I am still that way. Even though the older I get, the more emotional I tend to feel on certain topics. But overall, I'm still all right. Outside of my house, no one will see me cry. My family, if they see me cry, that is what it is. But I just don't do it outside of the house, right? And really, not much unless I'm really hurting or something like that in the house. So with that as our starting point, I guess, where where do you guys stand with the whole dealing with grief? And on top of that, dealing with it to make sure that your kids know that it's okay to be sad and let it out and deal with the emotions that come with it. Because like I said, how I grew up, tough, strong, deal with it. And if you have to break down in private.
Mhm.
Not everyone at once.
Yeah.
I guess I've kind of dealt with grief in a similar way. Like I would have these, I would kind of have like fits and then I would just be done. So it seems like I have like one moment where I just kind of let it all out. Occasionally there might be someone there to comfort me. So my grandfather passed away when I was 20, and that hit me pretty hard. And I was kind of handled everything and as far as the funeral goes and stuff, and kind of managed all that. And I remember at the funeral, I stepped out on the porch of the funeral home and just kind of broke down. And my dad was there to comfort me, and that lasted about 5 minutes. And I think that was the only time I really cried. And then my nephew passed away a couple years ago when he was 11 years old, and that was tough. And same thing, I had to kind of be like the anchor for my family. And then I remember there was a point in time where I just kind of like pulled myself to the side and, let it all out and then kind of moved on. And then same with my dog when he passed away recently. Although I've noticed it's affected my wife much differently. I don't know if it's just a man and woman thing, or if it has to do with upbringing or just, the way we process things emotionally. But I've noticed that like with the dog, I had a moment where I just broke down hard and then moved on. And I mean, I get sad about it, but it doesn't really affect me physically. Whereas my wife, like if it gets brought up, like she's like right back to the moment, and starts crying again. And it's been a year almost now. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess that is kind of upbringing, but I never grew up in a place where it wasn't okay to cry. Like my parents were always very open emotionally, and I try to be that way with my children too. I mean, there's a time when you kind of have to be stable when the shit's kind of hitting the fan. You kind of have to just in order to get stuff done. But I mean, there's always time to grieve. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I would say I'm probably fairly similar. I was like, my family was the way I was raised. I mean, my family would just, mock you or verbally abuse you, and then maybe even smack you, any chance they got. So if there was any reason where you were like showing any sort of emotion or grief or whatever, something like that happened, if somebody died or whatever, they would just make fun of you or pick on you or whatever, yell at you, stop crying, go do it, quit being a wuss, or whatever. Even all the way up to like my grandma's stuff. Yeah.
That's
but
so terrible.
well, I mean, granted, I grew up in kind of a screwed up household, but and my grandma and grandparents and stuff are very classic old Italian, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, like as for me, as I kind of got older, like you were saying, being the anchor, it's kind of like, I kind of recognized that as the man of the house and, the father and the husband and stuff like that. And really majority of those type of feelings came when like, it was like when my daughter was born, you know what I mean? Where, yeah, I can grieve, but for the most part, it's just, I'm there for them. I got to be their anchor, comfort them, give them what they need, do whatever. And then if I get a few minutes to myself, great. If not, I got to hold it in until I can, and just, hold it tight, be strong, be the rock, for the family, do whatever they need. And like you said, when I get my own time, kind of pull aside, grieve for myself, get it out, whatever I got to do. I've never really been much of a crier. I've shed many tears. I think honestly, I've been through some pretty pretty screwed up stuff, over the years. I think the worst time I ever cried was when my dog died.
Yeah, that's tough, man. That is
Yeah,
tough.
that was like,
Yeah.
man, that was wretched.
Yeah, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, man, because my dog was 6, and I got her right as I came off of a deployment overseas, and this was it was a particularly rough one, you know. So she really like helped me with a lot of stuff, and then she randomly got cancer. Like out of nowhere, she had a big, huge tumor in her gut. And she just lost like 30 pounds in probably like maybe a week, and to get all sickly. And then we took her to the vet. We're like, what the hell? And they're like, they had to take her back to an x-ray, and then softball size, and then they found out it was spread in her lungs and everything else. And they just had to put her down. They said she wasn't going to last more than like 2 more days anyways. So we might as well just put her down now. It was like, so that one, I think, hit me. It hit me, my wife, and my daughter, all of us, because she died about 3 years ago now. That one hit us, like all of us, hard. And I will sit here and tell you, as a grown man, me and my wife, my daughter didn't come. We got a babysitter to take my dog away. Me and my wife left that place like bawling. And probably for about a month later, anytime anybody mentioned it, it was like, ah.
Right.
But other than that, yeah, not really. I'm the same as you. Usually I'm just like a rock for the family.
Yeah. What about you, Brandon?
Well, I don't think my answer will surprise as much as I thought it was. The last time I can really remember grieving was when I was like 12, 13. My great grandfather that I grew up next door to, he passed away, and I couldn't accept it. Even though I already knew, because I'd already been over there, and he was waiting on my grandmother to get home from her open heart surgery. Like, she was coming home that day, and he had been falling asleep in his recliner. And he was still in his recliner, and he was just at peace. So no one bothered him. They know he had been having trouble sleeping. And like the whole family came in, and he was still asleep. And I didn't know at 12 that he was gone, but something was off. So when my mom started next door getting a bunch of phone calls, and she was, bawling, I was trying to deny it. I was like, no, it's not that. Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? Anything and everything except the reality. That one hit me real, real hard. And ever since then, I don't know to talk about. In the last year, my dog passed away, that I got a month. He's a month younger than my son.
Wow.
So like when I got the dog when the dog was 6 months old, and my son was 7 months old. So they grew up together, and that was partly intentional because I knew then it's important for a boy to experience grief, and a pet is a really good way, because a child can connect with a dog or a cat, and then I figured when my son was 13, 14, 15.
Speaking of,
yeah.
Like, ew, what is that thing you're holding?
Yeah.
It's my attack cat, who's literally trying to fight me while we're talking.
And he passed away from cancer, and my son was pretty devastated with it. And I've always raised my son, when it comes to crying, like, can you hold it in? Well, yes. Well, then hold it in. If you can't, and you tried, there's absolutely no shame in the fact that you let it out. If anybody, he was much younger. I said, if anybody's bothering you about it, you come talk to me, and then I'll go talk to them, and there won't be a problem anymore. He was like 6 when he started. He was upset when he was like 6, and he was crying, and he was trying really hard not to. Like, I found him hiding in a closet because he was so upset, trying to hide away that he was crying because he was sad. And then last year when he passed away, I can recognize that I do not have a healthy relationship with grief. I can recognize that. And this is going to really illustrate it. When something like my dog passing away happens, I don't have to, I can't deal with it right now. I have to deal with it later at an undetermined date. So in my mind palace, my mind there, I'm grabbing the urn and I'm just setting it on a shelf over here. I don't even look at it, but I can see that this shelf is made out of rickety 1x4s. It's not very stable. It's got a bunch of other stuff on the shelf that's I've grieved throughout the years, different things that I've just stuck on it. I don't know how long that shelf is going to last. It's like a bookshelf, 1x4s, and it looks, the little bit of the wood that I can see looks like you're fencing in a suburban neighborhood that's been just sun beat to oblivion.
Right.
It's really brittle. I don't know when that's going to fall, but it's going to be a bad, bad day.
Yeah.
But right now, it's fine. I just set this over here. I shut the door, and I don't have to look at it. Don't have to pay attention to it. I have stuff to do, and I'm fine right now, but I don't want that for my son, and I can recognize it's not healthy. Please don't psychoanalyze me, any therapist out there. No, thank you. I didn't pay for it. I would not like it.
The one key factor, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but the one key factor I'm realizing is most of us realize
dogs all die with cancer.
Well,
yeah.
My cat died of old age, so she was 17 years old, and she's been more parts of America than most people have. So,
Eric, don't derail him.
Trust me. Yeah, squirrel. But anyways, the one thing I'm realizing that as guys, one thing that we have in common is we're not saying don't grieve. I don't think we're teaching our kids not to grieve. But as men, the big thing that all four of us have is we put the fact that we have something to do. We have to keep the house running. We have to keep the family together. We can watch other people grieve while we manage. And, it's one of those things that I think is really neglected when people think about the fact of what us guys go through, in the sense of we get beat on. Why don't you do this? Why don't you talk about this? The fact of, like Brendan, like you said, you have this shelf full of stuff that you just pack away because you don't have time to deal with it. It's in your mind. It's there. You know it. You feel something about it, but right now you don't have the time or bandwidth to deal with it. And the fact is a lot of us have, just think about, I'll use myself as an example. I have family that's out of state that I have to deal with, that for better or worse, even though they're far away, I need to make sure that my kids are staying in contact with them so they build a connection. I have my work. I'm trying to deal with moving up in the company. I have call with dads, the editing, things like that. I have my wife. She just started her own YouTube channel of shorts of the cats. So I'll leave the link in the descriptions so people can go see it. Trust me, if you're feeling sad, watch my cats. My wife is just killing me in views on that. I kid you not. It's
cats trigger the algorithm, bro.
Yeah, that's the formula, man.
Yeah, cats.
It's that and big tits.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, there's a joke there. Leave it alone.
I was kind of trying to push through that one. I picked it up real quickly. But generally, the fact is that we as men are conditioned to be the rocks that keeps the house standing. I guess it's the best metaphor. Now, I don't care. Well, I do care in a sense of what you guys are going to say about this, but the thought that I'm coming with is I have my son, and my son right now is very emotional. I think when I was his age or something, I was a little emotional kid or whatever. I don't fully remember. And I'm sure my mom, when she hears this, she's going to let me know exactly if I was emotional or whiny or whatever, because she likes to remind me. But the fact comes down to it is that as we get older, we realize that we cannot, when we're young, we can grieve the loss of an imaginary friend. We can grieve whatever comes in our lives and leaves. As when we're young, we learn to grieve things, the littlest things, because the littlest loss means so much.
Mm-hmm.
But like when I was 12 or when my step grandpa died, I don't know if I didn't process I knew he died. I saw the body. I was at the funeral. I was old enough I comprehended it all. But, and this could be just my emotional thing, but emotionally, it wasn't like it was a loss because one, in my mind, I was thinking, well, when I die, I'll just see him again. Heaven and all that. Mm-hmm. So I didn't process it as a true loss. And when I was younger, I processed it as a time apart. So it's basically the fact of, with everything like that, I didn't process the death. I processed loss, but not death and things like that, if that makes sense. Now that I'm older and I can process death and the loss of things, I don't seem to be as emotional about it. Mm-hmm. At least not, I can control my emotions better. So I don't just spew out my grief and all this. I don't want my kid to think that he has to hide his sadness from everything, but on the same note, I don't want him being that kid or that man that grows up and cries over every little movie where somebody blows their nose. You know what I mean?
Well, I do have to say a couple things real quick. You guys can run with it. So I've noticed, like, just as a result of my career, I've really got desensitized to death. I mean, I see more dead people in probably 2 months than most people see in their entire life, so it's it has kind of a different feel for me. But I find that as I'm older, I'm actually much more, although I don't cry very often, I find myself fighting back tears significantly more often when they are tears of, when they are tears associated with something beautiful as opposed to something horrible. And I don't know what that necessarily says about me, and I don't know if you guys feel that same way, but maybe that's just because I'm getting older, have kids, and I've kind of been on this journey spiritually and emotionally. But I think that as a man, and this touches on what Eric was just saying, it's not that I don't think any of us would suggest that you don't grieve, but I think that you have to realize as a man that sometimes you don't have the luxury of grieving right now, right? And that's kind of what Brandon was saying too, is like, just put it on a shelf for a while, take care of business. When you got the time, that's a different story. You have to process it eventually, but you don't always have that luxury. What's that? I'm sorry.
It's possible, like, understanding as well. Like, think about when you're 6 years or 8 years old and your grandpa dies, very sad, right? But when you're 45 and your grandpa dies, or or even maybe you're like 55 or 60 years old and your 88-year-old father dies, it's sad, but at some instance as an adult you're understanding, he's old, he died,
this is just the way it is. It's just the way it is.
So
even
there's a little bit of a difference there, I would say, too.
Even in that example you gave me, your father dying at 88, your son is going to watch you as an adult grieve your father's passing. You're showing him what's appropriate for when you die. How is he supposed to act?
Right.
And it's really tough. And I think going back to pets passing away, some of the men in my life that I've watched that are of an older generation, my father-in-law, his dog, this was brutal. His dog passed away on Father's Day. we dug a hole for his dog on Father's Day, and that was a brutal day. And that was one of the only times I'd ever seen that guy shed a tear over anything.
Mm-hmm.
There weren't a lot, but his mom passed away, and he didn't shed near that many tears over that like he did.
Oh, I
And
would
that,
be shedding tears if my mom passed away.
No.
Yeah.
Happy
Yeah.
tears.
But
Oh,
You know-
stop it.
That went one direction for sure.
Stop. Edit that
you know,
out.
the one thing that let me ask this. With the fact of everybody is talking about the loss of a pet and this and that, and how they seem to be more emotional to the loss of a pet than a person. It's not like you definitely felt worse that you lost your pet than your family, but I mean, like when I lost my cat, I did cry. Evelyn was with me for 17 years, and literally her and I was homeless together. Her and I lived in a truck together. Her and I traveled the country together. I mean, my cat fought deers, fought dogs, fought people, fought imaginary things. I mean, I'm not going to use the word. She was a tough kitty. We'll put it that way. But she was also a loving kitty. People were terrified of her, even in old age. But the fact is like, I still think about my kitty. And I have a tattoo that reminds me of her, this and that. The loss of a pet compared to a loss of a family member. Like, I don't get me wrong, I still mourn my stepdad's passing, and it's, when I think about it, I still feel sad and what so have you. But the loss of a pet, is it more of, with a pet, you have that being that you can talk to, there's no judgment, you feel the connection there that allows you not to be so wrapped up in, oh, well, this person thought this of me, or I need to do this. You lose your pet, and it's like, I have lost the one person right now that I can talk to and know I'm not going to be judged, or I can just sit there with and pet.
I'd say innocence.
Yeah.
It's the innocence of the pet.
Big
It's
time.
similar to a child. You know,
I've actually thought a lot about the fact that pets hit harder than humans. I mean, I think part of it is unconditional love versus a relationship that's based on condition, right? So when you have a relationship with a human, they wrong you in a way that a pet never will. And like you said, having the pet there to talk and, have no judgment whatsoever. I think the other reason why, and this is the biggest one for me, is why a man is so affected by the loss of a pet versus the loss of a human, is because at our very core, we're protectors and providers. And there's nothing in the world that we feel more responsible for protecting and providing than our pet. Our kids will go off one day and be able to care for themselves. Our pet will never, ever do that.
Be able to.
And I know that was for me. Like, I remember when I was grieving for the loss of my pet, I was crying like a baby. And the only thing this is tough. The only thing I could think to say to him was, I'm sorry. Because I felt like I had let him down. You know what I mean?
I think part of it too is when a family member passes away, there's a litany of things you have to do.
That's true too.
There's a lot that's going on. It's not.
There's distractions.
There's paperwork. Which is awful.
Or good.
If
there's money involved, let's be honest.
Depends on how
there's a will.
Family.
There's a will that you have to go through and see, did this person screw me over? Did this person benefit? Like, there's a lot of things going on. You have family members that are fighting over possessions that seem ridiculous. People get petty about it too.
I've seen it.
Every time someone that's elderly has passed away around me, there has always been just this vulture reaction.
Yeah.
Everybody has to come get their piece.
People reveal themselves.
It's so gross too.
I have an aunt that I don't speak with because of how she revealed herself so intimately during the death of my grandmother.
It's foul.
Yeah.
Whereas
I told
a
my
pet,
grandmother, I don't want nothing. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't care what you got. I don't care how much money you got. I don't want it. I want none of it. Please don't give it to me at all.
Give it to charity. Oh.
Yeah, you know what she told me? She was like, well, you're a little bit of shit out of luck because you're the only responsible mother effer in the whole family, so I left everything to you. I was like, that's the opposite of what I want.
So finish your thought, Brandon. I think we interrupted you. I'm sorry.
Sorry, yeah.
But it's our pets don't require any of that. So the only thing to do is grieve. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
If you have time, that's the only thing on the checklist.
Yeah.
Is process this, unless it's like my wife's cat passed away right before we moved to Texas. If she can hear me, she will now be crying at the end of this day just because I said that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it will be all the way back up again. What is that pet company? Because they do you dirty. They don't intentionally do you dirty. It's not that. It's a lot of people Chewy. They're actually trying to be kind because you can call them and say, hey, cancel my service because my pet passed away, and they'll refund you the money. They will tell you to give that food to somebody else, and then they'll send you a card in the mail like 2 weeks later that's like, hey, blah blah blah, condolences. Like they'll send you a neat little letter that just punches you in the gut all over again. You're like, oh yeah. It's
so yeah.
I think animals also have a level of emotional connectability that humans just cannot. Like you can connect with a human, or another person, like a wife or whatever, or even a kid, extremely, to beyond forever. You know what I mean? More than anything in the world. But for some reason, there's a different level. It may not be more than a human, but it's just different. You know,
it's almost like a mother and a child because it's a relationship that's not based in language. It's based purely in emotional connection.
Right.
It's also like you. One of you said it earlier, innocence. It's pure authenticity. You wonder all the time, does my kid really like me?
Yeah.
Am I sure they don't hate me? I've never had to wonder if an animal likes me.
Yeah.
At all. It either hates you or it loves you. There's no in between.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah. Like my dog, when I got her, I was coming back from a pretty nasty deployment, had some nasty stuff. And there was, my wife didn't really know much about what I was going through or even understand for the most part. So a lot of the stuff when I had my issues, she would avoid or not really connect with me, kind of just step back and let me have whatever it was. And my dog all the time, so I would go out into my living room, in the house I was living in, and I would go out to the living room, go sleep on the couch because I would have strong nightmares and stuff. And my dog would come and sleep on me. Now, she didn't know what I was going through.
It didn't matter.
She knew there was something wrong, right? So she knew that I needed her support and her love. So she would cuddle and sleep on me. And she was a 50-pound dog, so it was like, but it still was there. She would come and climb on me and sleep on me, and she would lay there all night, and I would lay with her all night long. Well,
how many people, you see the stories all the time about people that were contemplating suicide, and then their animal, whether it was cat or dog, will show up and nuzzle them just in that perfect moment.
Yeah.
And then they don't do it.
That stuff. They know those things, and they may not understand exactly what's going on because obviously they're not people. You can't talk to them and stuff, but they know there's something wrong. They know there's an emotion of like a negative emotion and a feeling that something's wrong. There's a whole group over here. It's over like one over here, something about like healing animals or whatever for vets or whatever. They do it for vets, and they basically get a bunch of dogs, like local dogs and people, and they work with local vets, and they help you get pets that will connect with you and stuff, stuff like that. They do all kinds of stuff, and it's all about animals. So it's pretty cool. It's crazy how deep just a dumb ball player can can be. A slimy liquor. My Frenchie doesn't stop licking me. It's annoying.
Try this one. Every time you pet her, she decides it's time to treat you like a pincushion.
Oh yeah, right.
So, but
I have kind of a thought real quick, and this kind of goes back, and maybe, I don't know unless you guys want to have if you have anything further to say about the pet grief thing, I was going to kind of take it in a different direction. But.
Right.
Yeah,
Go for it.
So I was thinking back to the beginning of the conversation and how we were talking about Charlie Kirk and the grief associated with that. And it's so different, right? Because, it's like the opposite of the pet. Like, you don't know that person at all. It's more so the grief and the loss there is like more so what it represents about society, And I think back, like you were talking about JFK, but when you go back to the 60s and, the 60s was a rough era for political assassinations. I mean, JFK in 63, Malcolm X in 65, Martin Luther King in 68, and then Robert Kennedy again in 68, only a couple months later. And it was almost like during that era, the matter of 5 years, like we had 4 huge political assassinations. And, I think about that and then I look at the Charlie Kirk situation and, obviously I feel sadness over that. Yeah. I think anybody who doesn't has mental issues, but no matter what your opinion of it is, because it represents something about society, it's like a loss of it's a loss of the benevolence of society. It like shatters the illusion in a lot of ways. And I'm really hoping that this doesn't end like it did in the 60s, where, the shattering of this illusion becomes a domino effect. And I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on all that.
I do find it unbelievable that it happened, just because of I kind of feel like, yeah, we saw all that stuff happen all those years ago, but I feel like at some point we should be a little bit beyond it. You know what I mean? But it clearly happened. And the other thing that gets me that I just don't understand. Granted, he was majority conservative, but I mean, similar to Kennedy, he wasn't like a red conservative. You know what I mean? He
was pretty
had
moderate.
A lot of moderate mindset. He was more Christian than anything. He preached, for the most part, morality rather than conservative values or liberal values. He just preached morality. Yeah. And the craziness that somebody would be so brainwashed into thinking what that had to do that. And then the aftermath, granted, there's probably there's a huge thing of conservatives. Like every conservative had vigils all over every single state and city and county. And then you see like Australia, Germany, France, like all over the world. Like this guy clearly had a massive impact of not bad, of good, of one of the best, qualities ever. All he did was preach good morality. And people still go online and do sick things in his name, which is insane to me.
That really, I had to analyze. I've learned not to make any movements or decisions while emotionally compromised. And I waited 3 days before I said anything about it, because it took me that long to figure out what I thought, why I was feeling each one of those. Is I think it's pretty easy to make the statement that men don't experience multiple emotions at one time very well. We don't process them very well. It takes a bit. It's sort of it's exhausting, and it just wears you down real fast. So it took a while for me to process each one of those and figure out why. I think the reason it impacted so many men is because it hit us with a truth and reality that was difficult to argue with. We want our children to grow up in a particular part of society. I mean, if any of us that are trying to build a life our kids can build on top of, we require society to behave a certain way for that. And clearly there's members of society that are not going to behave that way. And what Charlie represented was everything you just said, the good, strong family values.
Mhm.
And a lot of it was founded in Christian beliefs.
Mhm.
Nothing was wrong about it. Nothing incorrect. I think one of the things I like he said the most was, you take the Bible and you live your life by the Bible, and you aren't a believer in God, but you still follow all of these tenets, your life will improve.
Mhm.
Right.
And it's difficult to argue with that.
Mhm.
And it's the fact that there were so many people celebrating this man's death because they
Mhm.
believed that he was evil somehow. Just,
Mhm.
it was a really tough thing to acknowledge.
It was weird. It was weird
Because
because watching, he was so Christian, but you would watch other countries that, like, even in America, like Muslim people from all different types of religions, even left-wing and liberal people, all were like, man, he was a good guy. Like, that was bad. So even seeing all these people with opposing opinions and clearly different religions saying how great of a man this was, and then you see the people that are like, yeah, like, wow, how sick is our society? How sick are people in our society? It's insane.
You
It's-
know, not to turn this religious, but this is honestly what I do believe. And I think this kind of goes to how people handle grief as well. Is I believe with my whole heart that our society is very much filled with demons, not the metaphorical but actual evil spirit demons out there.
Mhm.
And the fact of there's, like I've talked with my son about, there are actual evidence and proof showing that things in the Bible has happened. Sodom and Gomorrah happened because they found the location of the cities. They found the sulfur traces that it talks about in the Bible.
Mhm.
All this different thing. They found
I've been to a lot of those
historical.
places.
They talk about historical relevance of what was seen, recorded in different religions in different places, and all this, right? So if Sodom and Gomorrah got destroyed because the people were filled with demons, the people were
awful.
doing awful things. I mean, the list of the things that they did, from what I understood, is, according to historical texts, is mild compared to what was spoken with in the Bible. Now, a lot of that is, you have evil, you have people that, I'm not saying that they are demons, but they very well could have their souls corrupted. They could have a evil spirit in them, something like that. And I think our society has really gone in with TV, with these fake pastors out there, with
Mhm.
all these people who are trying to corrupt us more and more. I think because of that, people are allowing family to dissipate. The fact of respect of death, because I mean, people, they sit there and go, "Oh well, he just died. Who cares? I'm moving on," and or they celebrate somebody's death. Tells me that, in all truth, society has been filled with a demonic spirit, and part of that, at least part of the reason that I want Call of Dads to keep growing as we are, and we're slowly growing, but the more and more our message gets out, the more and more people realize I need to live a better life for my family. And in doing so, that's going to push those demons and things out of the house, away from your family, and be able to build up a better family, a better future, a better life, and all this. I guess where I'm going with this is that socially and religiously and all this. Now, mind you, I'm not a Bible thumper. You're not going to have me running down the passages and all this to you, but the truth is that yes, the reason that your life will get better for living according to the Bible is because even filling your cup a little bit full of clear, clean water will push the dirt out of it.
Mm-hmm.
We had the discussion prior about getting the crap out of the dirty, the bad stuff out of us and what so have you.
Mm-hmm.
That theory, I think, goes well. If you live by the Bible, your heart's going to become clear. The demons are demonic spirits, or however you want to look at it. Take it religiously, take it metaphorically, do whatever you want. But the fact is living your life better will make you a better person because you'll want to be better. And stronger family, stronger life, stronger everything, and we live a better life because of it. We have stronger relationships with those who are in it.
That's
and
a
I
lot
think
of what I've done to myself for like all the life that I lived and grew up with, and then in the military and stuff, with all of just terrible things I did over the years, as time went on, and obviously I didn't really start much. I like to consider myself a man when my daughter was born. That's when the shift happened, and granted I was like 34 years old. So, I was a full grown man, obviously, physically, and with a lot of mental stuff like that, but it obviously didn't live morally, did a lot of immature, more immoral things. But I noticed whenever I went back to the Bible, and I've never been a super religious person, but I started reading information in the Bible as almost as like an informational textbook. How do I do, or how do I do, or what does it say about this? Just to learn, and every time that I took one thing from my life that was something I didn't like, or was bad, or was promiscuous, or whatever the case was, and I just swapped it out for what it said to do in the Bible. So I basically implemented each one of those little things. Every time I did, my entire life across the board got inherently better. It was like it went from like here, it was like just progressively better, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. It got better and better and better and better. So every time I implemented something from the Bible, my life got a little bit better. And so I'm a firm believer in it. Whether you're Christian or not, you don't need to be. You don't need to be a Christian. I mean, obviously I suggest it, but because I'm a Christian, but that's just every time I implemented something from the Bible.
I mean,
it just worked out.
I'm probably the exception amongst the four of us because, I'm not a practicing Christian theist. I'm a Christian theologist and a creationist. But at the end of the day, when I read these texts, like in the Bible, and I'm particularly inspired by the story of Cain, and I find it interesting when people ask, or when people make the claim, did it really happen, or it really happened, they make the claim that it's historical fact, and I don't know if it is or not, but at the end of the day, It doesn't make a difference to me whether it actually happened or not, because I feel like you focus too much on the historicity and you miss the entire point. When I look at the story of Cain, I think, man, this guy was so embodied by a malevolent spirit of cynicism that he committed fratricide, and then when he was confronted about it by the divine himself, he became contemptful. Right? Am I my brother's keeper? Like, this is such a small section of the Bible. This is a couple paragraphs. It doesn't even make an entire page, and there's so much in that story. That story changed my life. And the Lord told him very clearly, if you do well, will you not be accepted? It's that simple. It is that simple. You choose to do the right thing, even when it's inconvenient. You choose to tell the truth, even when you know the consequences.
Yep.
You live a good life, and things will get better for you. And you don't have to believe that it all happened. It doesn't matter. It's the lessons, it's the stories, it's the allegory that's important. And I feel like so many people just completely miss that entire aspect of it.
Yeah.
Each one of our actions, whether we're kind or cruel, has a ripple effect, and it touches other people, and you can either spread goodness or you can spread cruelty.
Correct.
There's not really much of a difference there. And I
Mhm.
know, Tom, you and I have talked about the perils of pornography,
Yes.
like
yes.
how that snatches a hold of a guy in a way
Yes.
that most men don't. I didn't
Yes.
before I finally got away from it. I didn't even realize it was a problem until I took a 90-day stint away from it
Yeah.
and had to recognize how
Yep.
difficult it truly was.
Yeah.
I used to think that I didn't have any addictions because I never had a drinking problem. I never had a drug problem. None of those. They
Right.
get considered an addiction.
Mhm.
But by definition, I was very much addicted to a horrible lifestyle
Yeah.
Mhm.
in a variety of different ways.
You don't have to believe in God. Either you're moving closer to the divine or you're moving further away from it. And I know which one has changed my life. And it was deciding to move closer. You know.
You're a very interesting case. Most people don't even, I didn't until we were in a group chat together. I didn't know that you weren't a practicing Christian until you said so, just because of the way you represent yourself. I was like, wow.
You will know them by their fruits, my friend.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So let's do this. I think we've been, let's see here, it's already been a little over an hour now that we've been talking and trying to figure things out. And I think we got a lot covered. We discussed a lot of really something that we probably won't discuss in public very much. So, I mean, in all truth, us guys, we're not going to be sitting there going, I'm not going over to my neighbor's house this weekend and watching the game going, grief is a heck of a thing.
Yeah.
Have you thought
But-
about grief lately?
Yeah. Tell me, how do you handle it? But even though us guys, we should talk about this stuff more often, the fact is we're not going to. But with that, I think we covered a lot of stuff that hopefully kind of clicks with more people, gets more people thinking about it themselves and trying to figure out how to deal with it properly for themselves. With that, I think we kind of need to wrap up this live stream and end the episode so that I can answer a few emails. 2, we could get a few things done in the day, and then we don't want to make this so long that people get kind of missing the next episode. So with that being said, Brendan, where do you want people to find you at and reach out to you if they have any questions?
If they want to reach out to me directly, it's best to go through X or Substack at Pondering More. Both of those will lead you to me. You just reach out and I'll be happy to talk.
Such a great handle. So good.
It is fitting with the name.
So good.
So, Tom, how about you?
So on X is the best place at EarnHerRespect. A lot of things in the works in my personal life, and also in my social media life. So just keep an eye on there. And if you got any questions, reach out. I'm always happy to have a conversation with anybody. So
Sounds perfect. And of course, Mr. Pancakes.
Yeah. So the usual, you have the pancakeswithyourdad.com. That's the more fun, pancakes and nonsense page. You'll find all the social medias on there. Facebook, Instagram, X, LinkedIn, and Truth Social. You can reach out to me anywhere on there. There is even a contact us page. You can reach me there. But the main place now that I'm focusing the majority of my energy on, which is very difficult. I'm learning a lot of stuff because, as it sits, I'm still kind of going at it alone, still working at it, trying to figure things out. But the nonprofit American Liberty Foundation. So if you want to go to the website, it's american-liberty-foundation.org. Or you can go to the easy route, traditionalsociety.com. It'll just reroute you right to it. So just go to traditionalsociety.com. There is a couple courses on there. There's a large resource page, which I've got tons and tons of downloadable documents and downloadable pamphlets and pictorettes and stuff you can download, you can share, or just print them out and keep them in little small things. Some of them are like quick shots of information to keep for you, reminders. Some of them are just informational pamphlets, all kinds of stuff that I've created over time. There's also, Brandon's books are on there, so definitely go check those out. You can definitely check them all of this stuff out on, all the social media. So all the same ones, Facebook, Instagram, X, True Social, and LinkedIn as well. And go donate, please. We need more money.
Yes.
Go donate.
And of course,
please.
There's Call with Dads, where you can go with callwithdads.com. You'll find links to the American Liberty Foundation on there. You'll find profiles for both Mr. Pancakes and Tom. So you can access even my profile there. But Call with Dads, you can find us as Call with Dads on LinkedIn, Facebook, X. I believe we are still active on TikTok, so they haven't kicked us off there yet, or Instagram. So we're all those places. If you need anything, you can reach out to us, so on and so on. And remember, if you're not watching this on live stream, you can sign up for the newsletter where I'll shoot an email out telling you when live streams are going to be occurring, or you can follow us on social media, preferably X, LinkedIn, and Facebook, or Truth Social as well, where we post about these live streams that we're doing. And you can come, listen, and get to the YouTube side of things where you can ask questions if you choose to. And finally, because I promised my wife I would do this, and I mentioned it earlier about her YouTube channel with the kitties, if you go to YouTube and you do YUANLIU 6777, so 3 7s, that will lead you to be able to see videos, short videos, 5 second, 10 seconds of our kitties. She literally, I kid you not, has more subscribers and I think almost 60,000 views in 2 weeks. So
2 weeks.
People are really enjoying what she's doing, so go check it out. With that being said, thank you, everybody. Guys, hang on. I'm going to stop the live stream, but we'll talk for just a few more moments.